Good snowy evening to our attendees at Equipped Live tonight. I'm very happy to be here, better inside than outside right now, I think. My name's Jackie. I will be hosting this conversation with Greg Winter, and today we are going to talk about connecting the work to the customer need. So we are going to get Greg live here and ask him some questions. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Jackie.
Hey, thanks again for joining us and sharing your insight into these questions that we ask you. So today we're going to talk about, again, which I said, connecting work to the customer need. I think that there's some common sense there, what we're doing connects to the customer and fulfilling their needs, but it goes a little deeper than that. So let's dive into that. And I think it's always wise to start with a definition. So can you just start by defining, from your perspective, what does that mean when we say that?
Sure. At a basic level, that's pretty simple, like you referred to. And maybe the best way to do this, Jackie, is to use an example. And let's just say that in your neighborhood, you notice that every once in a while, one of your neighbors doesn't mow his lawn, doesn't take really good care of his yard like he normally does. And you do a little bit of investigating, you figure out that gee, that's because this person is traveling, and when they're traveling, they're out of town, they don't take care of their yard, but they haven't taken the opportunity to line anyone up to do that for them. So let's say you offer to do that for them when they're absent. And if they take you up on that and you guys agree to a price, now the customer has a need and you have work. And so if you do that work for the customer, that's connecting the work to the need. And we also refer to that as adding value for the customer.
Okay, so that's pretty straightforward in that definition. It kind of makes me wonder, what do you do if you have a neighbor who's not traveling but also is not taking care of their lawn?
Well, you need more salesmanship.
Yes. So although this is not something new to the IFMC, I mean, this is something that's been thought about and talked about here for a very long time. It does seem that lately there's more discussion on this topic and more focus on it. So why is that?
Well, that's because you grew your business. And when you grow your business, you can choose to do that maybe through adding more services, or you can choose to do that by adding more customers. And let's talk about maybe your business and your services that you might add. If you look at your customer and you say, well, gee, when you're out of town, you're not mowing your lawn, but what else aren't you doing that I might be able to help you out with? And maybe what you find out is that, gee, this person also has elderly parents. He mows their lawn when he's in town, but doesn't when he's not. And so maybe you end up offering to take care of that. And maybe you recognize that, gee, what else do you do for your elderly parents? Oh, I pick up groceries, etc. Okay, well, if you'd like me to do that, I could add that to the services. And so, you may end up watering gardens, picking up mail, doing all sorts of things for that customer and maybe his elderly parents. And so maybe we call those concierge services, if you will. And so you just took one customer need and you expanded that through really what we call customer intimacy by understanding that customer's scenario. And so that he has a particular set of needs in his life. You've offered some concierge services where mowing lawns might be one of those. That was the starting point. If you do a really good job and you have a really good, satisfied customer, he may talk to others, and others may request similar services. And if you take on enough of that work, now you're going to find yourself very busy, and you may decide that, gee, I need to hire someone. But now you face a choice of what, are you going to hire the person on the concierge services side? Are you going to hire them for lawn care? And let's just say you come across a horticulturist, somebody that really understands how to fertilize lawns, how to look at the chemistry of the soil, the sunlight conditions, the moisture, etc. And now you see a way of causing your customers' lawns to really stand out in the neighborhood. And so you hire that person. That now starts maybe some tension, if you will, between what business are you really in? Are you in the concierge services business, or are you in the lawn care business? And how do you balance the needs so that your now multiple customers are satisfied with all of the services, because you just upped the game. I mean, you just ratcheted up the expectations based on that one highly competent lawn care person. And so now you go along, you maybe get to the point where you're 10 times the size. So you've got 10 employees on the lawn care side, 10 on the concierge services side, and now you start thinking about efficiency and how do we make this more efficient? But a lot of times that causes that interest in efficiency now comes at the price of the value added to the customer. And if you've got multiple employees, they have different opinions, and more communication needs to happen in order to work through those issues. But not only do you have that change in your organization, you have multiple customer scenarios now that you need to keep straight, because they're not all the same if you have a customer intimacy model. So those are, I think if we just expand that out to where the IFMC is today, we have lots of customer scenarios. We have both customer intimacy models and operational excellence models working side by side. And so there's just a lot to talk about to keep the value added for the customer at a high level.
So when I listened to what you just said and explained that, if I was working, say, on the shop floor, and I was, I don't know, maybe welding and assembly, why should it matter to me? The things you talked about really sounds like something that my leader is going to worry about, or somebody that's in the office that is not me. So why should that matter to every employee? No matter what their job is, why is this a valuable topic to understand?
Well, the way everyone in the organization gets a paycheck and a bonus, hopefully, is by adding value for the customers that are sending checks to us. And so ideally, all organizations, so all business units, all teams, and all individuals are adding value for the customers every day. And if we're not, that's a pretty significant problem. We do have to recognize that the customer needs are changing pretty rapidly. And so, if we look back just recently with the COVID experience, we see how quickly those things can change. And so for a welder on the shop floor, or any, let's start with the newest employees, the thing I would recommend is that they look at their leader as their customer. And so their leader is the customer for the competencies that they bring to the party, and or the work they're able to do for the team, for the company, for the IFMC. And so if we start out and we just focus on the leader as the customer, and we do a good job of understanding what those needs are and using our competency to satisfy those needs, that's, I think, a really good place to start.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So if there's an employee who is struggling to make this connection between what they're doing and really how is it benefiting the customer? Yeah, I'm just assembling some things, or I'm just deburring, or I'm just powder coating stuff. Where would you recommend that they get some more information or knowledge on how what they're doing matters to fulfilling a customer need?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me, Jackie, is the hedgehog concept that we have talked about before in these sessions, where you've got the three hopefully overlapping circles, where you've got one circle that includes the things that a person is passionate about, another circle that includes the things that person is highly competent at, and another circle that is the economic opportunity, or in the context of this conversation, the opportunity to add value for customers. And so really, if somebody's struggling to understand what they really need to be doing, like I said, I would certainly be seeking to understand that from their customer of their competency, their leader. But it's really, I expect that the leaders, and I would say the best leaders, are the ones that help each team member maximize the overlap between the IFMC needs, their team needs, the leader's own needs, company needs, and what that employee is best in the world at and passionate about. And if that leader can maximize that overlap, I think that's really the way that needs to be dealt with. But that's a two-way street. I mean, the employee needs to be curious enough to try to figure out how he can help, and the leader really needs to be helping that person maximize the overlap in the hedgehog.
Well, you did a great job in answering my next question. You did 2 in 1 here. I was going to ask you what a leader's role could be in helping their team members understand kind of their role in meeting the customer's need. But do you have anything else to add on that topic? Or I think your answer was pretty good already.
Sometimes it's better to just be quiet. And this might be one of those times.
Yep. No, I think your answer was good.
I guess the one thing I might add is, and I've kind of covered this, but if a person looks at their leader as their customer for their competency, once you get really good at that, then I would encourage a person to be looking at what are the needs of their team. So, we talk in terms of teams of 7. What's the customer scenario that the team of 7 is solving, and how do I become a better team member to achieve that value add? And once they are feeling very comfortable and are recognized as competent with that, then I'd move on to the business unit level and then the IFMC level.
Yeah, I think that's great material to add to this conversation. So it's good that you didn't just remain quiet. And then, so the last question on this, it's kind of how I end a lot of these conversations, but is there anything else on this topic that you think is important for the audience to know that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, as I look at the folks that have really thrived in the IFMC, I think it's the people that come in every day and are trying to add just a little bit of value for the customer every day. I mean, they might be striving to add a lot of value, but I mean, as long as every day you're thinking about how can I add value for my customer? How can the work I do satisfy a customer need? And even if that's at the leader level, that's fine. And my recommendation would be start small. You don't need to understand all the customer scenarios and be a hero. Just do what you understand, and then always be stretching yourself. Always be curious. Always be trying to understand what are the customer scenarios for your team, for the business unit, etc. And then experiment. I mean, try things. You're going to fail, but that's okay. I mean, we need to keep trying new things because the customer needs keep changing. And as those customer needs change, we need to be able to adapt and do things in ways that we haven't always done them. And COVID is, again, a great example of that.
Yeah, and I have a passion for leadership, and so I'm just going to attack on their leaders too. Let your team, grow and stretch and challenge and try things, and that's where new ideas and new value is going to come from. So it's both absolutely up to the employee to want to do those things, but also for the leader to allow those things to happen. So very good. So we spent the last 15 minutes. This might be the closest we get to being done at 6:15. We spent about 15 minutes talking about, really connecting the work that's being done to the customer need. And Greg, as always, you've been great, very informative for the audience, for myself as well. Any final thoughts or comments?
I just want to thank everyone for all of the good work we've been doing to satisfy customer needs. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that if we didn't have a lot of value being added every day, we wouldn't have been seeing the bonuses we've been seeing. We wouldn't be in the spot we're at. And so I'm just proud of the work that's been done and how that's been connected to the customer needs, and look forward to doing more of that.
Excellent. Well, everybody, we will see you in March. Look for that email to come out. And if you ever want to rewatch this, send me an email. I'll send you the link. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.